Weeks ago on another assignment that God has given him a song to take to the world. Gerard is working with him, and many other people across this state, across this nation now is working with him on this project. I know Tahira, I saw Tahira this morning. Tahira wants to work with him. And so, but he's not here on that assignment this morning. He's here on another critical and crucial assignment as it pertains to the education of our children here in the city of Paterson. I don't know, but you better wake up. There's a crisis going on in our city. Carter G. Woodson wrote a book entitled The Miseducation of the Negro. Well, that book was written somewhere around 1929 or somewhere around there. But I need you to understand, in 2009, the miseducation is still taking place. You better hear what I'm saying. The miseducation is still taking place. I'm not here to throw Paterson Public Schools under the bus. They've done a good job of doing that by themselves. Our children have the lowest test scores in the state. Children are graduating from high school, passing a high school proficiency test, but it's far from college readiness. There's a problem. There's a problem when you graduate as in the governor's New Jersey Stars, which means you're in the top third of your class. But yet when you get to the college campus, you're taking remediation and developmental courses. There's a problem. There's a problem, and no one seemed to want to address the problem. Everybody want to blame the children, the students, the families, but nobody want to take up and take ownership on the people who are teaching and the instructional leaders of our city. But God has raised up a man, and every now and then, every season, every now and then, every certain dispensation, God will raise up a man who is not afraid to take on the status quo. And God has raised up a man at such a time. He's not running on the big political machine. And some of the people don't even know who he is. But he's not afraid to take on the hard issues. And we're ready for the word, but I want to give him a couple minutes that you would hear from him, because my responsibility is not so much to endorse Minister Ron King, but to inspire you to go out and vote on the April 18th? April 17th election. Now, I know what I'm going to do, but you need to hear the candidates. And then once you hear the candidates, it will become quite obvious what you need to do. We need change. And this man is representing change. Would you do me a favor? Just put your hands together for Minister Ron King. And then we're going to get right to the word. Right on time.
Let all the saints of God say amen. Amen. It's just a pleasure to be here with you this morning. I have to tell you right off the bat that whenever you see me or whenever you hear me anywhere, I am not a politician. I'm sure y'all been in church for a little while this morning, so I'm going to need you to talk back to me for a minute. I said I'm not a politician. I have no desire to be a politician. To tell you the truth, this position of running for the school board, I did not choose to do it any more than I chose to be in ministry. It was something that the Lord spoke to me about, and I argued with him about it. Because I had been inside the schools and saw what was going on with the teachers and with the students, and it grieved my heart when I saw what was going on, and I could not stand by and do nothing, because I was beginning to see and hear things that were going on that were abominable to me, that people knew they were going on, and there was nothing being done about it. When I started talking to administrators and they began to tell me about the behavior of teachers and students in the school, and I said, and everyone knows that? When I began to hear about kids being able to leave the schools through back doors and kids being able to come into schools who weren't even in that school, and they were causing trouble, and they knew that. When I sat with a school administrator and they told me that kids were engaging in sexual activities in the building, and they knew not only where, but they knew who, they knew about it, and nothing was being done about it. I said, there's something wrong here. There's something very wrong here. So I began to look at some things and pay attention to what was going on, and I'm very good at being a fly on the wall. I began to make friends in the school system and walk around the building and pay attention, and teachers didn't know who I was. It's a good thing when you can be put in a position where people don't know who you are, because they act themselves, and you get a chance to see who they really are. So I'm going to be real quick and just kind of shoot down some things that I want you to know that I have noticed. But if you're a parent in here, I need you to help me to take away an argument that they have, because the biggest argument they make is that you don't give them any help. Now, to some degree, somebody in here needs to say amen. Because there's somebody in here know they don't go. So we just need to be real with that. And we need to take away that argument from them, from that side, to where they don't consider, because they hammer that issue over and over and over again, that we get no help from parents. Parents don't come to school. Parents don't come to teachers' meetings. Parents don't support us. And we know that that exists, and there are extraneous reasons why, but those who can should do. So let me just shoot down real quickly. And I want you to just indulge me. Teachers have to understand, first of all, the environmental issues that urban children are coming out of, and accept that inner city is not the same as the suburbs where they come from. You with me? They need to understand that things are different. They need to validate this issue. They need to embrace the issue, and they need to understand that issue, that children coming from the inner city are different today. We must all understand and accept the social conditions of our youth, knowing that times have changed. Are you with me? Times have changed. This change has negatively affected the protective walls. Listen to me. This change has negatively affected the protective walls and boundaries that in years past served to buffer youth from socially unacceptable stimulus, keeping us sensitized to sensitive issues. There was a time period when we were protected from sensitive issues. Today, our children have been allowed to become desensitized to sensitive issues under the guise of what is the order of the day or the fad. We allow our children to do things and get involved in things that our parents never would have allowed us to do, never would have allowed us to see. Listen to the songs. There's a song I heard on the radio yesterday. I couldn't even believe it. It's on the top 10 list. I don't know the young lady's name, but the title of the song is "I Threw a Brick Through Your Window." Somebody here know that song? I threw a brick through your window. You know, and she sings a song that you deserved it, and this is the only way I was able to get some solace from how you treated me. I threw a brick through your window. And this is what we like. But back when we were growing up, somebody here, I'm going to date myself, is that Elvis Presley couldn't go on television because he did, just because he did that. He moved, they said, wait a second, what did he do? He moved his hips like that, they wouldn't put him on television. Now look at what we look at on television. Look at the dancers on the videos and all. This is what our kids get a chance to watch. They grow up and they want to be that. It's very difficult for children to stay focused on learning when they have been given by American society so many things to distract them. And parents feel they don't want their child to be, quote, the only one without. So we succumb to the pressures of our children and society by giving our children iPods, cell phones, video games, MTV, music with explicit lyric stickers right on it, rated R movies during prime time, iPhones with video capacity. We give all this to our children and they take it to school with them. You need to check your kids and make sure whatever you gave them, you need to make sure that it's in your possession when they go to school. Teachers should not have to fight with your kids over the iPhone or iPod. I don't understand that. I don't understand that. I mean, I do side with the teachers that if a kid's come, you got parents that come to school and to get their kid's iPod back, and the next day the kid's wearing it. I don't understand that. I don't understand. Well, my kid needs to have their cell phone. What did we do? What did we do without a cell phone in our pocket? We went to the office and said, can I call my mother? But not only that, this is something I've seen, folks, because I have been in classrooms, I've been in the building. Let me tell you what I've seen. Ain't nobody told me this. I've seen kids get a text message or a phone call in class from their mother. The mother calling the kid on the cell phone or texting them during school. Somebody in here need to say amen. That makes no sense to me. You don't need to reach your kid during school. The minute you do that, you're making your kid break the rules. Now you're bringing negative attention on your child because now they're looking down at the iPod and texting them because you telling them something that you could told them later on. Convenience. We become victims of convenience. In schools, there are rules. There are no rules. Listen to me. In schools, there are no rules. Only teachers who are paying in the behind. There are no rules. Only teachers who are paying. Let me just say what that means. That means that your son, Ahmad, walks down the hallway. He comes across Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown says, Ahmad, how's your dad? He's doing fine. Tell him I asked about him. He keeps walking down the hallway. He's got a hat on. Mr. Brown said nothing. He gets down the hallway. Mr. Jones and Mr. Smith are standing there, and they don't say anything to him. There goes Ahmad. I'm going to say nothing to him. He walks past. He gets down to Miss Johnson. Miss Johnson says, Ahmad, take that hat off. He snatches his hat off, he puffs and blows, and says, shh, I hate her. I hate her, man. He comes to her friends, and and he says, what's the matter? Man, that Miss Johnson, man, I hate her, man. Every time I see her, she tell me to take my, nobody else says it, why her? See, Miss Johnson is a pain because everybody doesn't follow the rules. Everybody doesn't follow the rules. If there is to be rules in the school, they absolutely must be enforced unilaterally. All teaching staff and security personnel must enforce all the rules with all the students all the time. We cannot not allow personnel to play favorites and to be able to show ambivalence when it comes to rules. We got the security people who do not make certain students to follow the rules because they done become their friend. We got certain teachers who don't enforce rules on certain students because I like this student, but they'll make this kid adhere to the rules every day because there's something about him I don't like. So I'm going to hold his feet to the fire every day. And that kid doesn't even want to come to school. By doing this, it undermines the overall objective, which is not to control students forcibly. It is not our objective to enforce control over students by force. We're talking schools, elementary schools, middle schools, high schools, but to create an acceptable and respected corporate culture. This accepted administrative behavior will bring about an atmosphere where students will know and adhere to guidelines based on conditioning through consistency. Through consistency, if everybody does the same thing, let me just give you a heads up. Kids do want rules and boundaries. They want rules and boundaries. They just want those rules and boundaries to be enforced by everyone, on everyone, all the time. And I'll follow the rules. They do it in the military. Your son don't want to follow rules in school, but he'll go into the military and follow every rule. Get up in the morning at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, run 5 miles, crawl on the ground on his face, crawl over the logs, run through the woods, do everything that they tell him to do, and come home and say, Mom, I'm really enjoying this. Because why? Because the rules are the same every day, and they're enforced on everybody the same way. You cannot expect kids to govern themselves. They don't know how to do that yet. We must also deal with the fact that some of our children have been negatively affected by their environment. Drugs, alcohol abuse, neglect, abandonment, discouragement, depression, gangs, gang violence, and this too also having an adverse effect on parents. Ability to parent. In addition, the number of parents who work and are single parents, who have to try to raise kids and go to work. My mother had to do it. And the difficulty in parenting sometimes when you're just too young. We got that issue. We got parents trying to parent that don't know how yet. But we need to sympathize with them because they're here in that situation and the children are here. And we also have grandparents raising not grandchildren, but great-grandchildren. I mean, you're 70 years old trying to raise a 14-year-old in 2009. You got to understand how difficult that is. We need to understand the difficulties here. We cannot continue to curse the darkness. I'm going to finish with you. We cannot continue to curse the darkness because darkness only exists in the absence of light. And if we are truly called to be salt and light, it is our earthly and godly obligation to light a candle at every opportunity because cursing the darkness only perpetuates the darkness. Doesn't change anything. Okay, to constantly repeat this diatribe of instruction begins at home. Instruction begins at home. The fact of the matter is, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. Now what? What do we do now? Do we continue to repeat this, or do we retrofit young people with the things that they didn't get by outsourcing someone to come in to do it? We've got to put money aside for somebody to come in and teach our kids respect and responsibility. The fact that they didn't learn it at home, yes, they should have, but they didn't. Lastly, teaching today is no longer just teaching. I know there's some teachers in the room, maybe. Teaching today is no longer just teaching. It's now leadership also. It's also shepherding. This is one of my quotes. Followers must believe. This is for you, Pastor Lassiter, because I know you understand this clearly. Followers must believe that in the life of the leader, their lives come first. Followers must believe that in the life of the leader, their lives come first. This means they must know in their hearts that they are more important than your paycheck. If a teacher's actions in any way indicate or reflect that their paycheck is more important, you've lost followership. The minute your job appears to me that that's more important than you teaching me, I'm not following you, particularly if I'm a child. You got to show, when it comes to leadership, leadership means I must believe in, love on, and care for my sheep. I must live for creativity to develop ways to reach the apparently unreachable. I got to foster creativity. They cannot continue to look in the box for the solution to a problem whose solution lies outside the box. We constantly continue to use conventional methods in unconventional situations. Leadership takes the blame for the failures of their troops even when you can show it wasn't your fault. Why must I do that, says the teacher? I must do it because to take responsibility is to remain in pursuit of the answer to the problem. As long as I go to bed every night saying, it's my fault, Lord, help me to find another way to reach this child. As long as I maintain the responsibility is mine, I'll continue the search for the answer. But when I blame someone else, then I relinquish all ties with the failure. And leadership doesn't point fingers, but it extends a collaborative hand towards the development of the solution. No more pointing fingers. I went to a board meeting the other night, and I had to leave because I was so sick and tired of the blame game and the pointing the fingers and the hollering and teachers showing so little self-restraint. The same kind of restraint that they expect students to have in their classroom, they had none of that in the meeting. How do you stand up and interrupt people when they're talking, hollering and screaming, yet that child do that in the classroom, he's on a disciplinary action and sent home for 2 days because he spoke out of turn in your classroom, yet you can do it in a board meeting. If I get on the board, you won't do it to me. You won't do it to me. Because I remind you that interrupting somebody when they're talking is the most clear way to tell a person and invalidate a person and tell them that what they're saying has no value to you. And if what I'm saying has no value to you, then you need to leave my meeting now. Let me just stop right now. You can get your coat. Leadership doesn't have a personal agenda over the needs of the troops. Here's my last word for you. You cannot be caught up in personal statements. Teachers, I understand when you believe that you've done a good job, but it's what you're conveying. You cannot be caught up in personal statements like, I'm a great teacher. I was teacher of the year. My class was #1 class in the district. Let's not indulge ourselves in the honors of me, what I call the Kobe Bryant syndrome. Remember this. Remember this. The MVP of the game never goes to the excellent play of the player on the losing team. MVP never goes to the excellent play of the player on the losing team. I don't care how good you were, if your team lost, your good play don't matter. Okay? And what do I mean by that? If the entire district is failing, then how can a leader brag on their personal accomplishments? If you're playing team play, then your team lost. Nobody cares about how many points you scored. Nobody cares about how good, what awards you got that year. The district lost. The kids are failing. If our entire district fails, then you cannot brag. Newsflash, it's not about you. It's about the kids, all of them. And giving yourself accolades in a failing situation is tantamount to AIG giving bonuses to a failing company. And we talk out about that. This last point I'm not going to give you, but I'll just leave you with this. Your actions are your example. Teachers, administrators, actions are examples. And just remember that no matter what the situation is or what you believe, it's not what you say, but what people perceive you to be saying.